Here's more wrestling news for October 5th, 2021. And your headlines for this afternoon include WWE wanted to split massively popular tag team during 2021 draft, backstage reaction to Edge referencing AEW on WWE Smackdown, which superstar is the favorite to win the Queen's Crown tournament, Tessa Blanchard's return to wrestling announced, and more. We are starting off today with the 2021 WWE Draft, which has seen plenty of teams split up. Not only have the New Day been sent to different brands, but so have Mason T-Bar, and while Jinder Mahal and Shanky are heading to SmackDown, Veer will stay on Raw. Former women's tag champions Natalya and Tamina have also been split, as have Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox, but WWE had considered even more tag team breakups. PW Insider reports that there was an idea floating around for the Street Profits to be split, but they ended up going against that idea and sent both to Raw alongside Bianca Belair. This wasn't the only change of plans, as originally Bobby Lashley was going to be the first draft pick for Raw on night 1, but after the cliffhanger between Drew McIntyre and Big E on the final Raw before the draft, the decision was made for Raw to draft the WWE Champion first. It makes sense that Raw would pick the WWE Champion, who has multiple wins over Lashley, as their first draft pick instead of the Almighty, and it goes to show how even WWE's booking of the draft was subject to change. On June 25th this year, Fandango was cut from his WWE contract, bringing his 15-year tenure with the company to an end. Fandango hasn't wrestled since his release, but this week, Game Changer Wrestling announced the debut of the former NXT Tag Team Champion, who's now going by Dirty Dango. Promoting Dirty Dango for an upcoming show, it's still unclear what event the ex-superstar will debut at, but we know his first match post-release will be for GCW. Interestingly, GCW has become a hotbed for former superstars, as Jon Moxley and Matt Cardona have both competed for the promotion recently, and both have been world champion. GCW will have their upcoming Fight Club event on October 9th, and the aftermath the day after, meaning fans won't be waiting long to see the former Fandango in a GCW ring. Bronson Reed was also released this year in a huge loss to the NXT roster. Before his release, WWE had been working on a main roster call-up for the former North American champion, but obviously that didn't happen on screen. Speaking to Inside Cradle, Reed explained how he was one of the few superstars to know his long-term plans in NXT, and it was Triple H who explained what the original idea was for the Australian superstar. "I was going to be North American champion, be that strong North American champion that defends his belt all the way to the end of the year, and then eventually face off with the NXT champion. That was the story that was going to happen, but then obviously with WWE, things can change on a week-to-week basis." WWE had initially planned for a lengthy title run, but he instead held the gold for just 41 days, as the company's plan shifted towards a main roster call-up. That didn't happen either, as WWE released the 33-year-old wrestler, and despite not having his lengthy reign or main roster call-up, Reed is confident that he'll show WWE they made a mistake in letting him go. Over to SmackDown, as Edge was on last Friday's show, and watched on in horror as his nemesis Seth Rollins invaded his family home. There was no way Edge would get back home in time, and in a frantic phone call to his wife Beth Phoenix, the Rated R superstar promised that their friends David and Daniel would be there soon. These names were in reference to David Harwood and Daniel Wheeler, the real names of AEW's FTR, who are real-life good friends with the 11-time world champion. Given that WWE avoids referencing the competition, the exact opposite strategy to WWE, it's odd that Edge would make this reference, but it wasn't a problem backstage. When Ringside News asked, they were told nobody backstage cared about Edge referencing the former Revival, and that includes Vince McMahon, Bruce Pritchard, Kevin Dunn, and John Laurinaitis. The source from Creative added that Edge played right to the internet with this line, and there's no heat on him for mentioning them. Had Edge said that AEW's Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood were on their way, there probably would have been heat, but his reference was far too slick for WWE's top decision-makers to care about. More release news as WWE released Lana from her lucrative multi-million-dollar contract earlier this year, and she's yet to appear for another company. Since her release, she's been going by her real name CJ Perry, and although her husband Miro has teased that the Ravishing Russian will join him in AEW, that hasn't happened yet. We'll have to see if Perry does eventually join AEW, but if she does, she may still get to use the Lana name, as she explained during an East Coast Autograph Auctions virtual signing. "I own that. Owning Lana is like owning the name Mike. You can't. In my contract, they own Rusev because it's so specific, but they don't own Lana because you can't. I would rather come out as Lana because at the end of the day, I would rather just not come out with my real name. WWE loves to trademark the names of its superstars, but the Lana name was too common in the world of entertainment for the company to own, meaning it may indeed be Lana and not CJ Perry, who joins AEW when the time is right. Lana won't be in the first ever Queen's Crown tournament, which will air this month alongside the King of the Ring. The tournaments will begin on this week's Smackdown, and there's no word on who's involved, but one superstar in particular has a ton of support. When WWE asked fans on Twitter who should win, a large portion said that Liv Morgan should be the inaugural Queen's Crown winner, and a photoshopped image of her with the crown, created by a fan, was retweeted by Morgan herself. Former SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley even liked the picture, and Morgan thanked the role model for her support. Prior to Money in the Bank, Morgan was seemingly destined for a massive push which never transpired, and whether WWE capitalizes on her popularity this time or not, the young superstar has the fans on her side. Over to NXT 2.0, as Joe Gacy has been one of the more controversial characters on the rebranded show, satirizing left-wing politics as a conflict resolution specialist. On this week's show, Gacy said he wasn't cancelled despite his character segments being pulled from social media, and this may have all been part of WWE's plan. In the Wrestling Observer newsletter, it's reported that WWE have been very pleased with the character, especially as the gimmick earned NXT 2.0 some mainstream media attention on Fox News. With the US extremely divided when it comes to politics, WWE will have to tread very carefully with this new character. But with this mainstream potential, neither they nor Joe Gacy are giving up on this character. And we're ending today with Tessa Blanchard, who was released by Impact last year after a lengthy hiatus from the company. Since her departure, the former world champion has had just one match, competing for Warrior Wrestling in September 2020, and hasn't signed with WWE or AEW as fans have expected. Blanchard, who faced accusations of racism and bullying just a day prior to her Impact World title win in January 2020, is considered nuclear by both promotions, so she likely won't show up in either company, but her next company has been reported. According to Fightful, Blanchard will return to WOW Women of Wrestling, the all-female promotion owned by LA Lakers owner Jeannie Buss. WOW hasn't aired in some time, as their last episode released in November 2019, and the report adds that the show's relaunch won't occur immediately. Blanchard is currently the only major talent associated with the brand's relaunch, as when Fightful reached out to nearly a dozen former WOW wrestlers, none of them were aware of the plans to relaunch the show. It'll be interesting to see how many stars return to WOW to work with Blanchard and what new names the company signs. But after over a year away, the former Impact World Champion may finally be getting back on TV. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.